ฝากกดติดตามและกดไลค์กดแชร์ CBN Thailand
When Gunnar was born, we were so thankful for him. We lost a child stillborn about 2.5 years before he came along, so he was a beautiful gift to the family and a complete joy. And in church, he would actually lead worship. He was really just the best child you could ever ask for.
Steve and Charlotte Mays committed to godly parenting of their son Gunnar. During his teens, they noticed a change.
He was starting to pull away from us. His attitude was changing. He really wasn't wanting to go to church.
First of all, I thought, just a teenage thing, but then it turned into more.
I remember growing up in church. Growing up at an early age and just being surrounded by love. I love going to children's church. I love going to Wednesday night youth group. I started going to our local creek. It was called Turkey Creek in our hometown, and met up with a lot of other teenagers there and made some new friends. They really opened up a lot of doors to me to drugs and alcohol, sexual relations.
He was just becoming different and distant.
It wasn't Gunnar anymore. I didn't know who he was.
I started smoking weed. That was the first time I started smoking weed whenever I was 15, the first time I ever did. I enjoyed sneaking out and going to parties.
We knew that, this was not, going well, and we couldn't seem to bring him back. It was very gut-wrenching as a mother and to watch him because I loved him and I was so, he was my baby. He was the baby of the family.
The Mays sought help for Gunnar through prayer, counselors, and pastors. Nothing seemed to help.
In the very beginning of the journey, when we saw things were getting worse and not better, the Lord spoke to me and said, live in the victory. Don't wait until you have the victory to rejoice, but rejoice now, knowing the victory is yours. There would be times when I just say, Lord, I trust you.
Charlotte came to me and said the Lord had told her that Gunnar was going to go to jail and that we were to leave him in jail. And I guess my first thought was, how long?
I was introduced to another drug that was called Spice. It was a synthetic marijuana. It really pulled me out of my mind. It really put me under some sort of spell or something just that made me not myself at all. And I didn't have any money and I didn't have a job. So the only thing I could do was to steal.
At age 18, Gunnar was arrested for stealing pocket change out of cars. He was held with a signature bond.
He called me from jail and he said, Mom, I'm in jail and I need you to come and get me out. It's just a signature bond.
I was scared, I didn't want to be there, and I called Mom and Dad and let them know.
And I told him, I said, son, don't you remember I told you that God said you were going to go to jail and we couldn't get you out until he told us we could?
I remember being extremely mad. I remember being like, I was cussing them out, talking to them like I've never talked to them before.
I had to really hold back my emotions and stay, steadfast in, what God told us to do.
I knew what type of people that were in there with him and, what he was having to go through and the anxiety he was feeling. And I felt it all myself.
We went to see him the first time. He's madder than a hornet. So I thought, well, Lord, you're not ready yet. He's not ready.
I tried to manipulate them by saying like, I'm in this place, it's scary, I don't want to be here. This is jail. It's like, you guys can't just leave me in here.
I leaned into the Lord with all my heart, and I did not give up on him, not once throughout the journey. I kept my focus on him, and on my darkest days, I would just spend time before the Lord in prayer, and I would just constantly say, and I trust you, Lord.
Steve and Charlotte continued praying for Gunnar, and after leaving him in jail for 3 weeks, God answered.
I could see a change in him, and we asked him what happened. He said, well, I prayed.
You could see a countenance on his face. He was different. You could see it, you could hear it in his voice, and it was refreshing.
I believe in week 3 and week 4 in jail, I was really starting to sober up. I started remembering who I was and the things that I believed. And I remembered how good my life is, outside of drugs and alcohol, and how thankful I was to have the parents that I have and to know the things that I know. And the truth is that, I did know the Lord. I did know his goodness. I did know his grace. I just had lost sight of it at that time.
After 36 days in jail, Gunnar was released to attend a Christian rehab center. Today, he serves in multiple ministries at his church, and is grateful for his parents' obedience to God.
I'm so thankful for them leaving me in jail. I'm so thankful they had to exercise faithfulness and self-control. I know that my parents would give God all the glory just as I would.
God continued to show up. He was right there holding our hands throughout that journey, and we felt his love. We felt his abiding love. And when I fell on my knees, when I just was so hard, God would just let me know, I got this.
It's such a wonderful thing to have my son back. You know, God has restored him.
It's really refined me in my spiritual walk in so many ways. And I've been able to use it to bring glory to him. And that's been precious to help other parents with prodigals to know that there is hope. But you got a part to play. You know, you got a part to play in the battle. And so you do your part. God will be sure to do his.